Alright guys, Sebastian Milo with the Boxing Mob here for Sportico, and I'm here with a man who really needs no introduction, Mr. Eddie Hearn. Eddie, obviously we're here at Roc Nation HQ in New York. We're here for a reason. Talk to me a little bit about, for those who don't know, this partnership that you now have with Roc Nation. What is that all about?
So, obviously the US is a very important market for us. I mean, we're the only global promotional company in the world. But Roc Nation have a big presence here in the US, and I feel like we've done a good job, and I've built myself into a position where I can talk to the fight fans quite easily. But there's a whole world beyond that, through music, through fashion, through culture, and I feel like Roc Nation really help us embody that and reach a new audience. So I think in terms of freshening things up, this was a great partnership. It's going to give increased visibility to our roster, to our profile, to our brand, to me, and keep expanding and keep making sure that we're ahead of the game.
Speaking of obviously expanding and reaching new audiences, The Greatest Showman on Netflix, a 6-part series. For those who haven't watched it, they have to watch it. But now that it's all done and it's out in the air and you can look back, what are you most proud about in that series?
I think the response, if I'm honest, it was a really weird experience because I watched Drive to Survive and I thought this is an incredible way to show a new audience the beauty of the sport. So after I saw Drive to Survive, I wrote to Box, who were our production company and also the production company for Drive to Survive, Full Swing. And I said, look, if you thought Formula One's interesting, wait till you see boxing. I said, and so you've been in boxing, it's wild. So they're like, oh yeah, we'll come and film a pilot. So they came and filmed a pilot. But while they were there, they spent time at the HQ and they realised the size of the business, the darts, the snooker, the pool, the fishing, all these, probably a dozen other sports that we're involved with, and the relationship with me and my dad, and the fact that it's a very special business and headquarters, and they were like, we really like the boxing, but we'd like to do it on Matchroom. So it's kind of like the best way, I think, to describe it is Drive to Survive meets Succession. And the thing that surprised me the most has been the response, because in boxing, I say it can make you a bad person, but it's a toxic place, isn't it? It's a toxic space. It doesn't matter whether you're watching on social media, you're on Twitter, people are talking shit all the time. So it was just nice to get a response of, hi Eddie, I watched your show, I loved it. You and your dad are great. I'm like, wow, some positivity. And that shows you the audience who watch, and that's the most important thing for us, is to keep growing the audience. So I think at the time, it was a big move because you have to be mic'd for what was nearly 2 years. You have to have the cameras following you, driving home with you after you've just got beat at Wembley Stadium in front of 90,000 people. When a deal breaks down, when you make, and the Katie Taylor against Serrano stuff, which was I'm watching it back going, oh, I said to him, can we cut that out? And they're like, no, honestly, this is gold. So it was very real, and I think people enjoyed that. I think people like the father-son relationship as well, and sort of understanding the dynamics, and what you saw was really what we are, which is a small family business that has grown to a global level and are just fighting every day to win, and that's what we do.
Speaking of growing to a global level, there was a mention in there of Turkey and the PIF's interest in purchasing Matchroom Sport. Can you just elaborate on that and maybe clarify, what's the possibility of that, but also was it for Matchroom Sport or a certain area of Matchroom specifically?
So about a year ago now, we actually did a minority equity deal with Pitch, who are Qatari owned, for 13% of the company, which was a big move for us. Strategic deal, but obviously, financially, it was a good spot for us. Now moving forward, they have an option to purchase a further 20%. All of a sudden, they start working with PIF. PIF look at the potential of the business. We're making more money than ever. Our EBITDA is just going through the roof every year, and they show an interest as well. So collectively, there's a conversation. When you look at the business, and I think this is probably the thing that surprised most people about the series, is the size, particularly, of darts. Darts not just from a viewing figure perspective and a ticket sales perspective, but from a revenue and profit perspective, is nearly double the size of our boxing business. Snooker as well, pool. You see, these are sports where we have total ownership of the IP. Investors like that. You know, boxing's wild. You don't know whether a show's going to fall through. You don't know how we're going to get on and fight with TKO. You don't know if your broadcast deal's going to expire within a couple of... So it's a little bit more volatile, but it makes a huge amount of noise. And forever, people will want to be in boxing. So from an investment level, I think people sometimes, and PIF would look at those sports like darts, they'd look at the revenue and the profit, but also the ability to grow those sports because of the ownership that you have. You're never going to have ownership of boxing, ever, unless you throw billions of dollars at the industry. And even then, someone's going to pop up and have a play. So yeah, I think that we are in a very lucky position where we don't need to sell. We don't need to bring in another partner. We don't need investment. But we also understand that to take it to that next level, a strategic partner coming in could make sense for us. So we're exploring probably 4 or 5 approaches at the moment, which is, you know, it's a great time. It's a great learning experience, if I'm honest. I mean, you know, we never expected to be in this position. And when you're in these kind of meetings, these are not meetings to sign a fighter on a 3-5 year deal. This is not a broadcast deal or a sponsorship deal that I could do in my sleep. This is a high level conversation in a world that we've never experienced before, me and my dad. So it's been a lot of fun, and you know, we've grown a lot through the process.
No, I'm glad you mentioned it too, because I think there is a misconception, especially in the US, of what is Matchroom Sport. I talk about all the time, because when I was at the Zone, yes, it's snookers, it's snooker, it's darts, it's more than just boxing. So yes, there's a lot much more to it. And from your perspective, from what you can share, you talked about the EBITDA and not to dive into the revenue or any of that stuff, but is there a number or valuation that you have for Matchroom Sport as a whole?
Yeah, I mean the valuation through Netflix was 1.5 billion, you know, and that's a huge number. I mean, you know, we're gonna, you know, it won't be long before we're through 70 million pounds EBITDA. You know, I mean, you're closing in on 100 million EBITDA, and it's just, but we haven't really touched the surface of where we can go with a lot of our sports. And as you start bringing those partners in, that's when you go to another level. Like you look at darts right now. Darts is a business that has no real infrastructure or presence in the United States of America. Now all of a sudden, we go to Madison Square Garden, we fill up the theatre there, 4,000, right? All of a sudden we're looking at other events. Now these strategic partners are coming to us saying, oh, we'd like to run a franchise league of darts in America. You get that right in America, you'll double your EBITDA for darts, right? Other countries that we're looking at, India as well, looking at a franchise system in India for darts as well. These are companies with a huge, huge potential and sports market. So darts, even boxing, like we are the only global promotional company in the world. This weekend we have a show in Philadelphia. We also have a show in Sheffield in England. Both are going to do about 10,000 ticket sales. Next week we're in London, right? Then we're in Orlando. Then we're in Tottenham Hotspur Stadium for 70,000. Then the week after that we're in Saudi Arabia. Then the week after that we're in Birmingham. Then the week after that we're in Monaco. The week after that we're in Los Angeles. The week after that we're in Africa. The week after that, oh, and Australia, I missed that as well. The week after that, we are in Saudi for the event there. So no one does what we do, but boxing's a very volatile business. Luckily for us, we've maintained a very, very steady EBITDA line that continues to increase. But at the same time, I think that sometimes investors, and that's another misconception, I think investors will look at boxing, wow, because they look at the noise of boxing. But when you look at the balance sheet of boxing, yes, it's attractive, but they want a solid investment, and that comes through ownership of the IP, of which you're never going to get in the sport of boxing.
Now, jumping back to boxing, obviously you've provided the blueprint. I mean, clearly the success with Matchroom Sport, Matchroom Boxing, that it seems like others would like to replicate, whether they want to admit it or not. I wanted to get your thoughts from putting your promoter's hat specifically. a month ago, Canelo Crawford, Zuffa, TKO. What did you make of the execution, the promotional standpoint of how they executed with that fight?
I mean, first it was a huge fight, right? So it was a fight that was made, financed, envisioned by Turki Al-Sheikh, not TKO, not Dana White. But, and this is the same for fights that I've done with Dana. You come in and you're kind of like the guest promoter. Some people don't like that because their ego's too big, and some people do as they're told. I'm the latter, and I'm not too proud to say it. Sometimes I get criticised, oh Eddie, you do whatever the Saudis say. Not quite, but mostly, yeah. Because we make money, we do good business, our fighters get opportunities, we create great moments for the sport, and I like working with these guys. Now, the show itself, when you have a show on Netflix and you have all those marketing dollars behind it, you have the content series, you have the promos, promotionally, it's quite straightforward. Then you've got to do the dirty work. You've got to roll up your sleeves and you've got to do the hours on hours of media calls, huddles, going to the gyms, doing the days, multiple press conferences in multiple cities. That's something that Dana will never do, right? And I heard him the other day, he said, Eddie Hearn's gone all Oscar de la Hoya. Not at all. I can't respect or praise this guy enough. The TKO business, phenomenal. Dana White as a promoter, phenomenal. He's just not going to do what it takes in boxing to tick all the boxes. Now maybe he doesn't have to. But, I look at the Crawford Canelo promotion, personally, I feel like it could have been a lot bigger. But, you also have to understand that in life you get to a point where you just don't do certain things anymore. Dana White is not going to do what Eddie Hearn does, which is go and do 8 hours of media, talking to every different outlet who's got a camera and who's interested. But that's my biggest asset, is my engine, my mouth, and my ability to promote. So maybe one day, when I've got, $1 billion, and I've got a yacht, and I'm, sitting there with my feet up, and all of a sudden they go, oh, by the way, Seb wants to come and do an interview with Sportico. I turn around and go, fuck Seb. But I'm not. I'm in an office here in New York, and we're doing it, right? But that's where I am. That's where I am, right? Good for you. But that's also my job. Like, what right do I have to not promote the fight? And I think some promoters will go up, they'll do the press conference, and they'll get out there. And you've been around a long time. It's just not what I do. So, again, maybe one day I'll stop doing that. But also, it's the bread and butter. That's the hard yards of the groundwork that makes the show what it is. And also, we built our success through talking to the fans and through giving media outlets opportunities to grow. And we're very, it's quite, when you see Coogan and you see Parsons and these kind of guys, it's, although I always joke that we should get 100% of the credit, it's nice to see those. Don't forget that one day, once they came to our press conference and it was just a young guy who was 18, 19, who wanted to start a YouTube channel, and we gave him access. And I think we should do that. I think we should give media as much access as possible to me, to the fighters, to everybody, because boxing needs it.
No, I agree with you. And then first off, I just want to address, we appreciate that. I remember meeting Parsons at Canelo Smith, I think in 2020, and
was it about 11 then, wasn't it?
A youngster for sure, yeah. But we definitely all appreciate that, and wonderful to see his success as well. You mentioned, Dana White maybe not ticking all the boxes that you believe, at least. What is it in his vision? Because the other day he said that boxing promoters have no vision, and he specifically called your name out. What is it about his vision or his model that you just don't see as a viable option to grow in boxing?
I think it's very difficult to say what TKO or what Dana White do won't work, because they're a huge business and they're very smart, right? But it's really come at a great time for me, for our direction, for our strategy, and for our passion to do all the things that Dana White doesn't want to do, right? I want to build fights for championships. I want to build fights for legacy. I want to respect and honour the traditions of the sport. the look and the feel of the sport. The last thing I want to do is come in and bastardise a sport that I love by creating a new ring or creating a new belt, right? Fuck, that's so far removed. And I'd prefer that because I'm going to go the other way.
Yeah.
I'm going to double down on the quality of elite boxing. I want the best fighters, I want the biggest fights, and I want the championship belts. I want to see my fighters draped in the WBC World Championship, with the Ring magazine, with the WBA, with the IBA, so they can look back on all the heroes that carried those belts and be like them. You know how difficult it is to have a conversation with a fighter that really truly wants to chase a legacy in the sport and say, by the way, you can't fight for the WBC World Championship. You're going to fight for the Zuffa belt. Every fighter with ambition would say, no way.
Yeah.
Unless you came in with millions and millions and millions of dollars that they just couldn't turn down. That's not TKO's model. I think what TKO are going to do, they're going to come in, they're going to run this league, they've already said it's like a contender series, smaller names, undefeated guys, trying to build those stars into bigger fights, and they're going to do 3 or 4 big shows a year, maybe with Netflix or Paramount probably. But the problem is, fighters are drastically overpaid at the top end.
Yeah.
Good luck to them, right? We know that. We've been overpaying fighters for years. He can't do it, and they won't do it. They can't afford to pay a guy $3 or $4 million who is creating and driving the same revenue as the UFC guy who's getting 500 grand. They can't, it will kill their business. They'll end up having such a major problem against UFC. So therefore they have to keep it capped and small, and they have to keep it with the same model of UFC, which is ownership. You sign this contract, you work for me, right? This is your money, great opportunity for those guys. You fight who you're told you're going to fight, no arguments, you wear this, right? And you're part of the team. And a lot of young fighters will sign that because they can't get another opportunity like that. We want to go the other way. We want the biggest stars. We want the big unification matchups between the very best in every division. And like I say, it's come at a good time because I'm so pumped for the fight. So, like, anyone that knows me knows this is my fucking bread and butter. I live for shit like this. Right? And when Dana White comes in and goes, yeah, the thing is, like, Eddie doesn't really have any vision. Don't say that. That's the worst thing you could have said. Because I'm going to show him vision like he's never seen before. And he may win the fight. He's a very, like, again, you'll never see me criticising Dana White, but I'm telling you now, in my opinion, you can't lace my boots in boxing. Now, if I go into the MMA world, which may be inevitable in time, I'm a massive underdog against Dana White.
Of course.
I'll be disruptive. Would I back myself to beat him? I like to back myself in all moments, but that's a tough one. Will I back myself to beat him in boxing? Every day of the week. Again, we'll see. But that's what I feel I needed at this moment, like, as well. You know, I'm always motivated, but this is like, you know, this is just taking me to another level, and it's great for boxing. People always say, "Oh, do you think Dana White's coming into boxing is bad for boxing?" No, I think it's tremendous for boxing. And the whole Eddie v Dana, whatever you want to call it, still, it's great for me as well. So let battle commence.
Of course, and you know, I know we have a couple minutes, so I wanted to ask you, more for the American market, right? You know, boxing maybe isn't what it once was in the U.S. to the casual eye, but it is growing in boxing. And I wanted to ask specifically from your perspective of with Matchroom USA, you know, since, correct me if I'm wrong, its inception, I think in 2018 here in the United States. How have you seen the growth of boxing in the United States?
Well, we've learned so much. I mean, you know, when I look back at coming in 2018, clueless probably was the best way to describe it, because, you know, I still weren't young, but I was a much younger man who was dominating boxing in the UK and felt that with my budget from the zone, I could come in and just completely take over the sport. And the problem is we were coming in with a product that was 4 or 5 years before its time, right? If we came in now with the same deal and with the platform that DAZN is now, then I would clean up. But you got to remember, I'm sitting down with fighters having conversations, and probably my favourite one was Mikey Garcia. When I fly into Los Angeles airport and he's sort of sitting down, I'm giving him a big pitch, you know, and he's like looking at me going, who is this guy? Like, we've seen him in the UK, but, you know, and it's like, I said, right, we want you to leave PBC, Fox, and we've got this new platform, it's called DAZN. And he's like, DAZN? And I'm like, yeah, it's, you know, so I said, it's an app. I said, streaming is the future of sports. What? What's an app? You know, it's like, well, you know Netflix? Yeah, a bit like that, but for boxing. And he's like, right. And then he would go away, and then he'd talk to Heyman or whatever, and they'd go, so you're telling me you want to leave PBC and Fox and sign with this guy who's just come over from the UK and fight on an app that no one's ever heard of? And we were offering much more money, right? And some left, but it was such a difficult conversation to have, and it was very easy for the other guys, Top Rank, whoever, to go, oh, dead zone, no one's watching it. Now all those promoters are begging to get on DAZN. So the vision that we had was correct, but what we learned over time was, you know, when I came in then, I had no real understanding of the difference between, you know, how you would market a fight in Los Angeles to how you market a fight in Philly, or how you'd market a fight in Houston compared to how you'd market a fight in, I don't know, Stockton. Like, and now we understand every local market. We understand, we have the relationships with arenas, we have a tremendous roster, and in the US, that's the market where we're going to double down more than anything moving forward in 2026. We have, in my opinion, such a strong position. A lot of these big promotional companies out there, they don't have a TV deal. We do, and we have a solid deal with a big bankroll to go and make the biggest fights in the sport. 2026, we've got to make it count, and we will be making it count in America.
Well, we look forward to much more Matchroom here in the US. Appreciate you, Ed.
Cheers.
Thank you.
Cheers, mate. Always a pleasure.